Hello my sweet squidlets, we're back with It Came from Craigslist. Today we'll be looking at used bikes for sale in the glorious post-industrial landscape of Cleveland, Ohio. Let's see what we can find. Alright, at the top here we've got a 2006 Honda CBR listed for $3,500. Pretty decent price. It is a 600RR based on the description. That's one of my biggest pet peeves when people don't put the full model info in the title. I don't know, maybe it's some sort of psychological game to get more clicks, but right off the bat we can see this pretty sick flame paint job, so you know it's a real fast bike. We've got the obligatory squiddly tinted windscreen, but this guy must not be too much of a squid because he was kind enough to leave his helmet and gloves on the bike while he took the picture, so we can be sure he's practicing at Gayet. But that brings me to my next point. Not only is the picture pretty bad, but there's also only one picture. It's like, did you decide you wanted to sell the bike while on this ride? So you pulled over right now, snapped a pic, and uploaded it to Marketplace instantly. Like, I need to list this bike right now. I have no time to wash it or take many photos. I can only take this one photo. There are a bunch of different angles where a motorcycle looks gorgeous, but this top-down, front left corner angle is not one of them. It's like the reverse version of selfies dads post themselves on Facebook. All this photo is showing me is the dead bugs and what looks like boogers crusted on the fairings. The seller claims he redid almost everything, but I'm not sure I'm buying it. He also says he needs the money, but in the very next sentence says he'll trade for vehicle or something I like. What sort of things do you like, vintage Beanie Babies? This won't be the crustiest bike we see today, but it is a good little crusty amuse-bouche to get our palate ready for the rest of the bikes we're going to see today. Also, I don't think a 2006 CBR 600RR with 33,000 miles is a steal for $3,500. I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 10. Okay, Jesus Christ, I am struggling to even talk about this bike without being demonetized. I'm trying to think of how I would describe this motorcycle to a child or someone's grandmother. This is absolutely insane. We have a 2000 Suzuki Hayabusa Custom Nightmare Before Christmas Edition. Good God, of all the fandoms in the world, they opted for Nightmare Before Christmas. I didn't know band hall kids rode motorcycles, let alone Hayabusas. This is absolutely terrible. We obviously have a full Nightmare Before Christmas regalia all around, a stretched single-sided swing arm with a wheel and tire that looks like it was pulled from a dub edition G-Wagon or something. The rims spin. It has spinner rims on a motorcycle. Why? No one needs this. This is absolutely preposterous. They even put Nightmare Before Christmas paint on the frickin' NOS canister. They're asking $18,000 for it. I don't know, man. That's Turbo Busa money. Do people buy these? Obviously people buy them, but why do people buy them? I can't even think of the type of person who would buy something like this. Who has $18,000 of disposable income, rides motorcycles, likes cursed Hayabusas, and this is also a ride or die Nightmare Before Christmas fan. The description for this bike is hilarious too. Some of my favorite quotes: "This is not a beginner bike." Well, I'd sure hope so, dude. "This Busa is chromed out." Busa being in all caps. No lowballing and no scams. Like a scammer is gonna see that and be like, "Oh man, I gotta move on to the next one. Busa man said no scams." We all know these bikes exist, right? But I feel so titillated when I find one in the wild. I'm gonna give this one a 9 out of 10 just for the history of it, for the memes. All right, we got a real deal boomer chopper here. 2003 Big Dog Motorcycles chopper listed for $8,000. The seller gives us zero information about the bike other than the mileage and price, but do we really need anything more than that? I mean, look at this thing. It's like a Salvador Dali painting of a motorcycle. Disproportionate and unsettling. I don't know a ton about Big Dog other than every time I see the name, it makes me think of that Big Dog's clothing brand from the 90s, and I think they use S&S engines. These bikes are just so weird. The frame is so low, it looks like you'd bottom out just pulling out of a parking lot and scrape the exhaust or outer primary with even the slightest lean angle. I mean, seriously, how do you even turn on these bikes? It's got to have the same turning radius as a semi-truck. Oh shoot, I didn't even get through all the pictures yet, but it has LED underglow. Even better. Bear with me here for a second, but all things considered, it looks pretty clean. Like, if you're into this sort of thing, which clearly people are because I see enough of them around, this might not be a bad buy. $8,000 seems a bit outrageous, but I think these Big Dogs sold for like 40 or 50 grand brand new. You know what they say about big dogs? Big price tag, I guess. Giving this one a 6 out of 10. Do you want to avoid your motorcycle becoming a Craigslist crap bike? Do you want to make the mistake of accidentally purchasing a Craigslist crap bike and now you need to return it to its former glory? Then you need to head over to shop.yamadube.co, use our year, make, and model feature, and look at all the parts we have available to keep your bike in tip-top shape. We have tires, exhaust, grips, chains, you name it, and all the best high quality stuff from reputable brands. And while you're at it, you can check out our selection of riding gear as well, because you do not want to use the half helmet with flames that the seller gave you when you bought the bike off of them. Not to mention, every dollar spent on the site gets you an entry to win one of our giveaway motorcycles. Again, that's shop.yamaha.co for all your motorcycle parts, gear, and accessories. Now back to the video. I feel like I can't do one of these videos without stumbling upon a wretched and abandoned project bike, and here we have just that, a 1981 Yamaha XJ6 for a scant $350. The sub $500 project bike is just a total cry for help. It says, I just need someone to come and put me out of my misery. So according to the description, that is indented to be a bobber. So we've got some rear shocks that are so slammed it looks like the rear fender is just resting on the tire, and then the front wheel is cockeyed and the forks just seemingly resting on one of the fork tubes. And what's bizarre to me is that someone at some point had this bike down to the frame to paint it red, and they clearly did an amazing job at that. I don't even understand why a bike that is in this rough of a shape would be chosen to be the platform of a project bike. I'm almost jealous of the people that can see a hunk of junk like this and see the value or the potential in it. Is it hope or delusion, or maybe madness? Because clearly their motivation has faded. Either way, it would probably just be nice to have such an optimistic outlook. I see a bike like that and I'm just calculating its weight in scrap metal or thinking of fun ways in which it could be destroyed. Even a completed 1981 XJ6 bobber build of this quality would still be worth next to nothing. The whole thing just seems like a waste of time. Am I too cynical? Anyway, on to the next bike. Oh, and also, this bike comes with the worst possible spare parts bin ever. Like, oh yes, this box of used spark plugs and non-functional OEM turn signals really sweetens this deal. Gonna give this one a 3 out of 10. Alright guys, I found the deal of the century. Cleveland squids rejoice. We have a 2003 Gixxer 600 with 45,555 miles with a stretched swing arm. Yes, a stretched Gixxer for the low price of $2,500. I can only imagine the late night highway pulls and street races this bike has seen. The stories they would tell if these spray painted plastics could talk. We get very little information from the seller, and the proclamation of no mechanical issues makes me believe this is a super sound motorcycle. I was going to make a joke about hopefully that slip-on exhaust is loud enough to drown out the engine's rod knock. And looking at the exhaust further, I hadn't heard of HMF, so I looked it up, and it turns out they make ATV and side-by-side exhausts. So this guy probably pulled the exhaust can out of an ATV that you can see in the background and put it on the Gixxer. That's amazing and resourceful. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say. This bike sucks. 2 out of 10. Up next, we have not a wretched, stretched Busa, but instead a wretched Gixxer 1100R. But what is even better is it is listed as a 1992 Suzuki SV1000, which is a motorcycle that it is not. And the icing on the cake is that this puppy can be yours for $15,000. I know used vehicle prices are a little out of control right now, but $15,000? Is that swing arm made of solid gold? But for those non-Spanish speaking members of the audience, the description reads, O mejor oferta, which means, or best offer. I mean, can any price point really be worth more than the memories of gapping car guys on the freeways? Despite owning a fully built Turbo Hayabusa, I am not as immersed in this scene as you might think, so forgive me if I am wrong, but is that a NOS bottle underneath the seat? It's hard to get a good look at it in these pictures. I just assume if someone had a stretched, nitrous-boosted 1992 Gixxer 1100 that they believe is in fact an SV1000, that they'd be pretty quick to make the buyer aware that it is in fact plumbed for NOS. But again, I don't run in these circles, so I don't know. This bike has some custom wheels too, with a huge rear tire, of course. It is alarming how small the brake rotors are on this bike, so it has only a single disc in the front that looks pretty modest in size, and then a rear brake rotor that looks like it came off a pedal bike. These bikes are actually pretty cool in their stock though. So 90s. We're gonna give this one a 4 out of 10. I didn't mean for this to become a stretch Suzuki special, but damn, I guess Ohio had other plans for today's episode. Here we have a 2007 Suzuki Gixxer 600 listed for $11,000. At a quick glance, this bike is covering all the bases for a drag bike and is just one of the cleaner stretch Gixxers I've seen today. Do you hear the words coming out of my mouth? This is why no one should live in Ohio. This is what prolonged Ohio exposure does to you. This bike has a stretch swing arm, a fat rear tire, and the tiniest Akrapovic racing exhaust, but it might be a China Povic exhaust, we're not sure. Plus a handful of stickers that are really instilling confidence for the potential purchase of the bike. Stickers that say things like financial mistake, true salesman, And this Gixxer definitely has NOS. You can tell because they're using some official branded NOS canisters, unlike the last bike, which may have been running Diet Coke instead. And it looks like there is a little boo-boo on the gas tank. I bet the poor guy tried to take a gentle turn and high-sided. I mean, look at the contact patch on the rear tire. There's like 4 inches on both sides of the tire that look like they've never touched the pavement, which really drives home the question, how the hell do you turn these things? There are so many other things to spend $11,000 on. You get a brand new Gixxer 600 for $11,700, or you could get 2 used Gixxers, or you could just take your girlfriend to the world's best international vacation, or hell, just donate it to charity. Whatever you do, do not spend $11,000 on a 15-year-old stretch Gixxer. Just don't. We're gonna call this one a 2 out of 10. Maybe a 6 out of 10 for cleanliness. Thanks for making it to the end of the video. Hope you had a laugh. These videos are always a fun time to make. If you enjoyed it, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you'll be notified when the next video drops. Fact: if 2 pieces of the same type of metal touch in space, they will bond and be permanently stuck together. This amazing effect is known as cold welding. It happens because the atoms of the individual pieces of metal have no way of knowing they are different pieces of metal, so they just lump together. Goodbye.
Keep watching Amy Noob!